Does your garden look like this? Has a season's worth of neglect caused destruction and ruin? Let's reveal my new and improved results. But first, here's how I transformed this rundown landscape into a vegetable-bearing Eden. Keep watching while I demonstrate that there's nothing to it. Nothing to it. Hello, I'm your host, the Tulip Guy, and welcome back to my garden, my failed garden. That's right, this eyesore is in need of a serious makeover. I'm going to be rebuilding a new fence and adding a mini greenhouse. This should give it a little more curb appeal and easier access to the garden. Some of the items I purchased, and some are just kicking around the yard. But before I get to that, step one is going to be turning over the soil and removing these weeds. As you can see, I've done the brunt of the weeding. There's still a lot more yet to do, but we're going to take care of that later. What I've done so far is I've piled up my dirt to two sections here. I'm hoping to just build my fencing around here, my little greenhouse around there. And then afterwards, I can just push the dirt to the sides to level it out. That'll be a home for my new plants. This here's the greenhouse that I'll be building. As you can see, I've got my stuff spread all out so it's easier to get at. Right here, I've got some uprights, a cross piece, some corner brackets, some angled walls, some straight walls, and some roof panels. I'm going to get right into it and show you how I construct it. The first thing I'm going to do is build a corner. I'm going to take one of the flat wall pieces, one of the angled wall pieces, which both have T-slots on the ends. There and here. Those T-slots will join together just by coming in at the top, sliding right down like so. Once you got your corner, you can actually take one of these black corner pieces. Just sits right into the groove of each bracket, forming the corner, allowing you to carry on all around the perimeter of your greenhouse. Next step is the centerpiece. It also has a T-slot, just like this. It will join, just like the other corner piece did, right down the center, allowing you to put on the last angled piece that will help us form up to the next corner. Now that I've got my first corner piece built, I'm just going to continue all the way around that dirt pile that I had made until I need the center bracket. The center bracket also just slides onto the T's of those center joints, just like the corners did. The roof panel has a circular piece that also just links into the center bracket. Now that the greenhouse is assembled, that pile of dirt that was in the center that I built it around was able to be spread out to all four corners and leveled off. It's now ready for planting. It also comes with these little brackets that hold your lids open. It literally, at the bottom where my pinky is, will clip onto the side, and this little piece at the top will support it at the top. So you lift your lid, clip it on, just like that. Last but not least, there's a little corner bracket. Clips onto the edge in the corners, just like that, to give it a little more extra support and strength. All right, guys, here we are, day 2 of the garden build. As you can see behind me, I've got my piece of plastic lattice. You might have something else kicking around, like a wooden piece of lattice, some smaller dollar store border type stuff. It could be wire, plastic, wood, whatever the case may be. You can use it to suit your own needs for your garden. I in particular going to use this piece. I'm going to cut it down to several lengths. I'm going to also show you a variety of ways of cutting it. Some might be successful, some might be fails. We're going to go through that together and see what works and what doesn't. My first attempt at cutting this lattice is going to be using the jigsaw. I've taken my straight edge and marker. I've marked a line all the way across where I feel is going to be the appropriate length that I need. On the other side, I also have a couple of clamps, and underneath it's attached to a sawhorse to keep it from falling when I try to make my cut. Attempt number 1. If you take a closer look, the edges aren't showing too many burrs. It's nice and straight. Worst case scenario, if you really didn't like the way the cut looked, you could actually turn it and face that part down in the dirt when you build your fence. Circular saw. Now for this one in particular, I've clamped down a piece of lumber, and once again, I put my clamps on with the tightening device on the bottom. That way when you go over top, the housing of your saw clears past the clamp, because you don't want to get going, have your housing hit your clamp and not have enough clearance to keep on going through. Here we go. Piece of wood acted as a nice guide to keep it straight all the way across. This is your countertop cutting tool. I don't recommend this method, but I'm going to demonstrate it anyway for you, but it's going to take probably 5 to 10 times as longer. But if this is all you got, this is what you're going to use. As you can see, it takes a lot longer to make the cut, but when you get up close, it gives you a lot of burr plastic edges. You don't really want that. It's not smooth. It's not really a process I would recommend. The reciprocating saw. This is probably another method I'm not going to recommend. We're going to try it anyway to see how it does. But my prediction is, even though this is clamped down, you're going to get a lot of flex and chatter when you're trying to cut, leaving you with a very rough, raw edge, just like we have with the countertop cutter. Let's find out. As predicted, you get your rough edges, exactly what we didn't want. It's not very smooth. It is fairly quick, but I still wouldn't recommend it. Table saw! So during that last segment, in my personal opinion, I would go with the jigsaw for cutting it. It's fast, it's easy, it's efficient. You can get the job done quick with that. I was going to get into a few other silly ones like using a grinder, but you'd probably have just melted your way through the plastic, so I just kind of skipped that. Also, as an added bonus to this video, my wife has now requested a garden box now that I'm building a garden. So you're going to get a little bit of that as well. All right, moving on to the assembly of our garden fence. I have a spare piece of wood here. I have numerous other spare pieces which I've cut a steep angle on. This angle will allow me to drive it into the dirt once I have it assembled to our lattice fence here. I'm going to attach that piece of fencing to this piece of wood using self-tapping screws. These screws have a drill-like piece on the end. It will go into our plastic, hopefully without splitting or cracking, and it'll butt up nicely against that flat edge here. This is one of the assembled pieces. Once you have it ready for your garden, you can go into the dirt like that, creating a nice little garden fence that's short enough that you can step over for easy access to your garden. As you can see, for my garden fence, I had to dig some holes, stake those down in there. I'm going to fill those in a few minutes so that it matches up like the other side. Over here on the corner, just put one screw in currently to hold it in place so I can pivot it back and forth as needed to keep it level. So we have our garden fence built, our mini greenhouse. Got some more weeding done, a little bit of leveling done. If you guys have stone dust or gravel, you can put that down before you put down your patio stones. I know I said I had patio stones earlier in my video, but it turns out I only have pavers. I'm just going to build my pavers around the edges of my structures just to pretty it up a little bit, and maybe a little flat spot over there where I can put my rustic planter box. All right, now for the bonus segment, the planter box. What you're going to need is 4 corner posts, 6 short pieces of wood, 6 long pieces of wood, your drill, a drill bit for making pilot holes, and a bunch of spare screws. You can use whatever you like for this part. As you can see, I've kind of done a simple mock-up. Basically, you're going to spread it out so that you have your long piece in the front, short pieces on the sides. You're going to screw all these to your corner posts and work your way up. There you have it, your rustic planter box. You can sand it, stain it, put handles on it. You can even put a bottom on it if you need to. My plan for this one is to just place it out in the garden, fill it with dirt, maybe line it with plastic first and then fill it with dirt, and then you're ready for your gardening. Now that we've completed our garden, greenhouse, and rustic planter box, I'd like to take a moment to thank all the people out there that do this type of work for a living. It is hard, grueling work. All the landscapers, garden hobbyists, botanists, everybody in between that does something related to this, I thank you very much for the work that you do. I hope you enjoyed watching this episode today, and remember, there's nothing to it.